like I just got back from Chicago, and Chicago has a sound right now.
Yes, they do.
You know what I mean? Shout out to Young Chop. I think he's sort of the epicenter of that. You know, West Coast has always kind of had a sound, but like, you know what I mean, in terms of like the music itself, and the way they inflect the voices and stuff like that. I can't really pinpoint a New York sound right now.
Well, look, I'm a New York artist, but I don't consider myself within the limitations of being a New York artist. Like I look at myself as an international, universal artist. I'm not just competing with rappers. I'm trying to compete with the canon of Black history. I'm trying to compete with Langston Hughes and James Baldwin and Claude McKay. I'm not looking at it as some five borough shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but a lot of people get caught up in their feelings with that. And you're right. Like the Bay Area, West Coast been complaining for a long time about how no one listens to West Coast music. But through all that time, the Bay Area has maintained a Bay Area sound. Radio-wise, they got more stations, hip-hop stations in the Bay Area than any place. So they're able to maintain a radio presence. As a hip-hop artist, if you cracking in the Bay, you cracking in the rest of the country. Because of that, other artists, the Bay Area sound remained distinct. There's always a hot Bay Area record in the club. Matter of fact, if you were an artist from Atlanta, you go into the Bay to get a beat to put on your album, to stay hot in the clubs. So Detroit, you got a lot of rappers from Detroit, Guilty, Royce da 5'9", people like that. Detroit music, there's no Detroit sound that's on the radio. But Detroit, you can name the Detroit rap style. You know what I'm saying? Like, and ain't nobody compromising on that. A lot of New York artists, I'm not even talking about the bigger artists, but I'm talking about the no-name artists, the people who are trying to copy the trends, not the trendsetters. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to copy a trend, if you're trying to do something that's not original, that's fine. Ain't nobody can hate on that. But you've lost the right to complain about shit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you said not too long ago that hip hop's not really talent based right now. Explain that.
When people are invested in hip hop, for the most part, what I see is not invested in the talent of the actual artist. It's more invested in the moment of the song. Like MK Asante is an artist that I did a song with. Razkaz, my man Bishop Lamont, Guys in the Hood, and we just filmed a video for it. At the end of the song, they have a live conversation, Razkaz talking to some girls. I think it's off his album Bargs Then. And he's talking to some young chicks, and he's like, what y'all into? They like, we just want ratchet, something that's ratchet, something we can turn up to, something that has something to do with some drugs, some sex, you know, something that's exciting. He's like, what about bars? She's like, we don't care about bars. We just want to turn up. You know, and I think a lot of people are having them conversations, which is why I have to applaud Kendrick, because he's forcing people who don't give a shit about lyrics to now think about where they stand.
But there's always been that. Whoop, there it is. Like, you know what I mean? Huge song. Wasn't about shit.
Right,
like,
but
it was, you know.
What people were, and I get your point because I agree with your point.
You know, It Takes Two by Rob Bass. When you go further back.
That's a lyrical song, though, for the time. It was. That was a lyrical song. I like the Whopper, Fuck the Big Mac. You ain't never hear Fuck the Big Mac on the radio. That was like subversive.
Me, oh, yo, I got
hey, look, that was for that time. That was lyrical. That counts as lyrical.
I haven't seen Rob Bass in any top 10 lists or even top.
That counts. He only had two songs. That and Joy and Pain. That's it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I agree with you to a certain extent, because look, I'm not the harbinger of hip hop's death. I often point out to people that the most popular hip hop artists are the ones with the best content. Your Macklemores, your Kendrick Lamars, your J. Cole's, your Wale's. You know what I'm saying? These are the artists that people are gravitating towards. They're not gravitating to the one-hit wonders. They're not gravitating to the artists who are making club music. Those are not the artists who are moving units, if there's any units to be moved. I agree with you on that, but you and me are privileged to do this for a living. So we get to look and see all hip hop all the time. Most people just turn on the radio, drive to work, they have it on in their car and at their office, and they're only hearing the top 10 playlists. And when you're only hearing that, you could get real sad about the state of hip hop. You feel like it's a one note thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you and me, we like the numbers agree with us, but the masses still feel like they're not getting enough from the music. You know what I'm saying? And even when you give them examples of Kendrick, you know what I'm saying? And even when you give them examples of J. Cole, they still feel like, nah, when you say, well, that's the rap everybody's talking about, they still feel like, well, nah, this because Kendrick is not making music that's easy to be duplicated, or that's assembly line type shit. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the stuff you hear on the radio surrounding Kendrick and J. Cole and artists like that is that.
I tell my son, man, you can't afford me, man.
You gonna charge him for a verse, huh?
Yeah, I'm charging. He got money.
Dave Chappelle is a different type of animal, man. His comedic talent and timing is like no other. And I gotta honestly say, I can't disagree in any way, shape, or form.